Hey everybody, this is Owen from Owen's Rock and Metal Podcast, and before we get into the action today, I wanted to take a few seconds to talk about Anchor. Anchor is a great app and it is free to use. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Did I mention it's free? There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. That's the Anchor app or anchor.fm to get started today. Happy podcasting. And now, let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Owen from Owen's Rock and Metal Podcast. Today, we are talking about one of the great albums of all time. It has been mentioned as the root of heavy metal, and I'm talking about, of course, none other than Black Sabbath. I'm joined today by my best friend, John. He's a big Black Sabbath fan. John, how you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, ready to talk about a great album from a great band.
Great album from a great band, for sure. So before we get into it, John, tell people about yourself, your and your relation to Sabbath. What if you're a Sabbath fan, yes?
Yes, I would consider myself a very large Sabbath fan, maybe even the biggest. Sabbath found me a few years ago, and I would say it changed my life, especially this album. So, big Sabbath fan, big classic rock fan, big metal fan. So this is a big album for me.
This is a big album, and as we're recording this, we are one day away from the release date, the anniversary of the release date, February 13th, 1970. So it's been over 50 years, which is crazy to think, but let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Let's break it down. So starting off, we start off with none other than the title track, Black Sabbath, from the band Black Sabbath, and their album called Black Sabbath. You got any thoughts about Black Sabbath, the song?
Before, like the name Black Sabbath, it's so dark, it's so heavy, it's so anti-religion almost, because Sabbath is the day of God and black is black, and it's just, I just love it. And I love that the band's named that, the first album is named that, and the first song is named that. And I think the song reflects that name so well. Yeah. It's just deep. Ozzy's deep growls. Tony Iommi's just big rips, and Geezer and Bill just handling the grooves. It's amazing.
Just handling it right. And the song is really eerie. It's got like that almost like evilness. Like it's just. It ties in with kind of the themes of this album and just the themes that the band had in their early days, at least, especially kind of just like evil. And even in the musical sense, Tony Iommi, like it's called like the devil's tritone, what he's playing there. So evil stuff all around. You got the opening of Black Sabbath, almost like it's like thunder and like rain and just like lone bells ringing out, and then it just hits you in the face with just really heavy stuff, just big, open, heavy stuff, which is something Sabbath really excels at and was really new at the time when this was released.
And Geezer Butler, who's a phenomenal bassist and is who wrote all the lyrics for pretty much the first 8 albums. If you hear Ozzy say, "What is this that stands before me? Figure in black, which points in me." It's just, even the lyrics are dark. Like, there is an evil spirit, at the end of my bed. I'm pretty sure it's a real life. I think is a real life story that Geezer experienced and wrote about. And it's just, it's scary, it's dark, and it's perfect. I love it.
Right. I had heard that too. And they would kind of dabble in, I think Geezer said he kind of dabbled in almost like black magic, like never practiced it, but like was interested in it and just kind of this dark stuff like that. And then, began seeing like figures at the end of his bed and stuff. And that's kind of, I believe that's why they wear the crosses. I don't know if you know more about this than I would, but I think that's why they all are kind of known for wearing, those crosses when they perform or in photo shoots and stuff.
Yeah, it like I'm pretty sure in the cover of this vinyl now. I don't now you have vinyls and if you open it, I'm pretty sure it's upside down cross in it, right?
Yeah, that's actually right. Yeah, I got my copy right in front of me. Yep.
So I'm pretty sure Geezer he like I don't know if he like practiced it hard, but he would like have upside down crosses in his room and stuff, and like he was like into that. So that might have
Yeah,
been the way.
that's
And I think it was like Ozzy's dad or one of the dads worked at some manufacturing and made all those metal crosses you see in the early photo shoots. They all wore those crosses to
yeah.
the spirits that kind of came to them, or and then it just kind of became a staple of their look, like
Right. Kind of symbol, like just iconic with Sabbath.
mm-hmm.
They wear the crosses, and that's it. But definitely a great introduction to Sabbath. Never really heard anything like this, and I'm a big fan of the song. It's just really eerie. It's something you just got to crank up, and
it picks up at the end with tempo and it changes direction. It is so good. It's just a cool ass song.
It is very good indeed. And you talk about crosses being manufactured in industrial plants and stuff like that. At this band, who knows if it would be possible or what it would be like if a certain accident at a factory had not occurred that actually crushed Tony Iommi's fingers.
This is correct. And for those who are not big into Sabbath like me, two of his fingers got chopped off, and he was like, "Uh-oh, can't play guitar anymore." Got some finger caps, and then tuned his guitar down real heavy, and that kind of partly played into why their sound is so big, heavy, and open, because of the way his fingers are screwed up.
He tuned his guitar down for some of the albums, and he used like thicker strings than what was commonly used at the time. So really, this band was really trailblazing a new path here, which eventually became heavy metal. And the bands that you could list off that were influenced by this album and this band it's countless. It's
too many,
and it's you and I both metal fans, so
yeah,
we gotta give a lot of thanks to this album because it's paved the way. But moving on from track 1, track 2, need I say more than The Wizard?
Dude, this song is so good. I was listening. I put this album on earlier, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this song is so damn good!" Like the core of this band is blues, like almost every classic rock band in the '70s, and this one really shows it, especially with the harmonica that Ozzy was playing. It's
right. That harmonica sound, it's just so, it's almost like kind of similar to like the eeriness, like it just kind of starts off and it's just the harmonica, and it's just like, and then it hits you in the face with when the rest of the band comes in, they were just heavy.
I know it's just Ozzy's vocals. I've read somewhere that someone just explained his vocals as a droning, like his droning vocals. It's just kind of like, he is such a unique voice, and it fits the band so well.
Yeah, that's a really good description of it. And I definitely, I couldn't picture anyone else, singing these songs or recording these songs. No. I mean, other singers came along for Sabbath, but they never really, it didn't capture the same.
No, I mean, which is a whole nother conversation. The other singers for Black Sabbath, including one, are phenomenal. But with this time period and this sound, I don't think any other singer could have handled it as good as Ozzy did.
Right. I definitely agree with that. Ozzy, he's a legend for that reason. And he's still making music to this day. I don't even know how old he is, but he's old,
still 71 or 72, and he's still making albums. It's insane.
It's great. But I don't know if you know anything about this, but I think The Wizard was like a story about like a guy that the band would get like drugs from or something like that. I don't know if you have any
I have no
knowledge of what the lyrical content's about.
You know what? I don't, and I feel like I should. But it's about a wizard. I know that of some sort, and I'm sure it has to do with drugs because that influenced this band.
Another influence you get in later albums, songs like Sweet Leaf or Hand of Doom, which is about drug abuse.
Or I thought one was about cocaine on Volume 4. Why am I'm losing it? I don't remember, but Sweet Leaf is definitely one that, that's all about weed. But the
right, there's no.
Oh man, just drove this band into the ground, unfortunately. But it produced great music, so what can you say?
Yeah, I mean, there's a balance there. I guess a lot of great music has come out of the use of drugs and stuff like that. So I guess
it's the way it is.
Well, yeah, it is the way it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you were talking about the blues there, and that's definitely something that is very true. Ozzy came from like a working class area. I think they all came. Were they all from Birmingham or just Ozzy?
Yeah, no, all of them.
So that's a really like working class part of England, and mm-hmm. it contributes to where that blues roots come from. Just kind of like gritty blue collar jobs, like in a factory, like Tony Iommi had. And I'm not sure what the rest of them did, but
yeah, they all did some sort of factory job. That's pretty much all that you could do. But a lot of them, would do the music thing on the weekends, and it seems like the only Birmingham, they call them the boys from Birmingham. Yeah, they made it for good reason.
They made it. That for very good reason. They made plenty of albums, sold mm-hmm. plenty of records, and they've made a lot of fans happy with this great music. But yeah, it's interesting. I think talking about the roots of the band and how they came together. I think if I remember this correctly, they discovered Ozzy because I think at least Geezer and Tony had already had a group or something like that, and it was a sign like Ozzy Zig requires gig. I don't know if you know any more about that than what I just said there, but yeah, they were all kind of doing their own thing at the time, and I think there was a band in the early days called Earth. I don't know if you know anything.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you cut out there?
I think so for a little bit. So yeah. So let me circle back about Earth, Ozzy Zig. Yeah. So what happened was, what was the last thing you heard me say?
I had heard you talk about the boys from Birmingham and that they made it.
Okay. So Ozzy, the way they got together, they all did factory jobs. The blues roots did definitely come because of like the industrial kind of place they were. Ozzy Zig requires gig. He would post that up. And the trick was that he had his own PA. And I think a PA is just like speakers, recording, something that has to do with that. So Tony and Geezer, I think, kind of were doing a little thing with each other, and they didn't like their singer, and they wanted to do something different. So they went around, they went to this music shop and saw Ozzy's poster, and they were like, okay, let's give this a trick. And Tony and Ozzy actually went to school, and Tony knew Ozzy as just like the kind of class clown, the kind of foolish kid, and turned out to be the Ozzy he knew. And then I think Ozzy knew Bill. They got together, and then they had like a saxophone player and a rhythm guitarist, but they dropped them off, made Earth, which was the original band, and then eventually renamed to Black Sabbath. And as Earth, they just did little clubs on the weekends in Birmingham. But then when they got more recognition, they changed it to Black Sabbath.
So the guys in Earth, that's the same 4 original members as the 4 original members in Sabbath?
Yes.
Did they ever record anything as Earth? Is there ever anything out there that you've heard from the Earth days, or is it only under Black Sabbath?
Pretty sure Earth days was just covers.
Okay.
If I'm not wrong, I've seen on Black Sabbath's Instagram, they've put posters of Earth in concert, and it was just like a low key little thing. And it was the 4 boys. And it was, Earth was like maybe a couple months before Black Sabbath. And it was just kind of a cover band on the weekend. And maybe they were making some original stuff. They just never recorded anything as Earth now.
Sure. Who knows, like the roots of some of these songs, some of these big long songs on this album that are just kind of just jams put together. You got Wasp, Behind the Wall of Sleep, basically, and B, and those kind of songs where it's like you got the Slashes breaking up the title that are just like almost 12 minutes long and just them playing stuff. I'm sure some of that came from the Earth days.
Yeah. And talk talk about NIB. That song.
Yeah,
That song rocks.
I was thinking about it earlier, and I wanted to make sure we touched on it because how can you not touch on it when you're talking about this album? It's great because you're flowing out of whatever comes before it, and you just got this nice groovy just bass intro from Geezer, really just handling it, and then the rest of the band comes in and they just work together so well. Like it just blends perfectly, and it's a great sound. It's really heavy. That's something Tony did, and I know we've said this before, but the heaviness is just something that was so new and just so like unheard of before. But
NIB and it's heavy and it's groovy and Ozzy was famous for singing over Tony's riffs. Like he would kind of match it.
Right. Like the rhythms and stuff. And you hear a lot of that on songs like on off the second album, Paranoid too.
Yeah. He was known for that. And later, and he was criticized for that by other Sabbath singers, but it just seemed to work, especially with his like unique voice, Tony's low tone on the guitar, and especially in this song. It's really good.
Yeah, NIB. Do you have any idea what NIB stands for? Because I actually don't know this.
Well, there's a few things. One day they were all sitting around drinking, smoking, whatever, and this is like when they were recording this album. And Ozzy looked at Bill, and Bill had this big long beard, and he goes, "Bill, your beard looks like a pin nib." NIB, pin nib, which is like the ending of like a feather pin, like those old style ones that I think. And then if you look up a pin nib, it looks like that. And then they all said, "Oh, it's funny. You look like a pin nib beard." And then the name kind of stuck, NIB. And then they were just like, let's just make the song that. And they put the dots there, NIB. And then they just changed it. And they said, we'll just call it Nativity in Black. So that's kind of like the backstory of it. It's not true. It's not like official, but like they kind of just all agree that it's Nativity in Black or Bill's pin nib of a beard. So Nativity in Black is what they call it.
That's nice. And that's just another layer of just them in their early days, kind of just the dark religious themes kind of.
Yep. Which is so sweet. I personally love the religion-based music, especially when it's anti-religion. I think it's just it brings a whole new layer to music, and Black Sabbath definitely started that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you and I were not alive, but I wonder what parents thought. Super religious parents thought when their child came home listening to Black Sabbath and talking about the devil and this kind of stuff. I bet.
Yeah, it didn't go well. A lot of groups and stuff were against them because they practicing black magic and antichrist stuff, especially back in the 70s. That was not
right. That wasn't gonna lie, but here they are, 51 years almost the album released, and they're still getting played and talked about. So I think it's fair to say they won. So, but moving on, we get to, so that's side one of the album, Black Sabbath, The Wizard, Wasp, Behind the Wall of Sleep, basically, and great ending with NIB. And then you flip all over, starting off with Wicked World. I personally love that Wicked World riff that Tony plays. It's really kind of almost like Bill Ward's kind of playing like a jazzy drum style. You're a drummer, much better drummer than I am. So I don't know if you can talk about, Bill Ward's drumming, what he adds on Wicked World, not just on Wicked World, but maybe the whole album in general.
The blues of Bill's style is jazz. That's every drummer kind of has their, the guys they look up to. And he was big into the jazz and he likes the swing. He likes the swing feel. The swing feel really comes out in this song. And I think it comes out in the next song too. But it especially comes out in War Pigs. If you listen really carefully, you can hear him slowly swinging on the ride cymbal. But this one is definitely the most jazzy and swingish song that came, like this. It's like this album's like half dark and half blues jam.
Right.
It's like evil and blues jammy, and this one is like definitely the blues jammy one. and it comes
Yeah,
out.
it's great. I've heard people wonder, like, what if blues and metal like were combined? And I just have to think that's already a thing. It's Black Sabbath's first album. Like,
Mhm.
it's right here.
Yeah,
It's if you ever wondered what blues and metal sound like put together, go look no further. But yeah, you're talking about the
yeah.
next song, which is another one of these big mashup songs, which I think originated, just jam sessions, and then just to get something recorded, they would just play these big things that they kind of just different fragments of stuff and just put it together. But it's a bit of finger, Sleeping Village, and Warning, and a bit of finger. It's kind of got that little slow introduction, but then I'm trying to remember how it goes because these songs are so long. But
This song's a 15-minute song, um, and it's hard to remember because it's split up in like three different songs. But I'm looking up the lyrics for it
all right,
because I'll know it when I see
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, this one kind of starts off with like a weird timing like Bill comes in and it's like a weird timing of a swing
yeah,
feel, but then it just comes in like a straight eights, just a rock
yeah, yeah,
backbeat.
yeah.
I think
There's one song where
I don't want to sing it.
I know, no, I know what you mean, but there's when Ozzy, I think it's like he's got some lines at the beginning, and then there's a space where Tony, he has just this really sweet riff that I love, and I just don't think it's enough
Hmm.
attention. But
No, it doesn't. Because I think people turn away from the 14 minutes like, oh, I don't want to listen to it. But when you get through it, you just hear the different stages of the three different
yeah,
songs. Like, oh, this is really.
and there it's listed, if you listen to it on like Spotify or YouTube or whatever, it's listed as one song, but it's really three separate, like there's like different
Hmm.
stuff going on, music stylings, different, everything, different feels and all that. So it's really important, I think, to listen to all of it and not just, ignore these songs for sure,
Yeah.
because there's some hits in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the lyrics too, like what you can, like, the thing I love about this band, especially Ozzy's voice, is I can hear what he's saying because his voice is so unique and I can listen to what he's saying. And in this song, A Bit of Finger, someone went through some heartbreak or some because, he talks about, because I saw you in a dream and you were with another man. You look so cool and casual. And I tried to look the same. And he's like talking about some girl and how his feelings were too strong. And it's just behind like, and I'm pretty sure this song is when Tony just goes on like a 6 or 7 minute solo and he's just like shredding for just a while. And it's so good. I love the mix in this song. This song has such a good mix to it.
Yeah, I mean, probably once we're done here, I'm going to give it another listen through because it's just that good. And I think when you talk about
Yeah.
Tony going on these long jams and just the power his riffs had, I think when we talk about great guitar players, I think he kind of doesn't always get the respect he deserves in that conversation. And I think he's definitely deserving as definitely one of the most influential guitar players, but he's incredibly talented as well.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great, like, he can make great riffs, but he's also like a phenomenal soloist. Like he has some good solos and God, he was what, 2021 in this,
Yeah,
just some kid. And he's just, it's really
it
good.
is incredible to think that they're making this music at that age and they're just doing it. And you think these guys, they're all just kind of hanging out, just a couple of dudes from
Mm-hmm.
Birmingham, and they're making this sweet music. And I'm sure at the time they had no idea it was going to become, what it is today. They're just doing it because they love doing it. And, it's become so much more than just, 38 minutes of music. It's influenced a whole genre,
Yeah.
and it's really impressive. But earlier we were talking about other bands, Earth, that they kind of were originally as, and there was another band that was kind of influencing Sabbath at this time, Jethro Tull. And I know you've listened to Jethro Tull a little bit, but I believe the story goes that Tony almost left the band for Jethro Tull, or they were going to put him in the band or something like that, or he auditioned for them around the time this album was being like released and stuff. So who knows how it would have been different.
This is true. And I was going to mention earlier, but I didn't. So it was 68, I think. was 68, 69. Tony left Black Sabbath or Earth at the time. It's really hard to find that information on, because, not many people know it. And the four original members can barely remember because, both career and legacy. And so Tony left because he was like, just kind of tired of the lineup changes or whatever was going on at the time. He auditioned for Jethro Tull, got it, but he hated it because Ian Anderson, who's the singer of Jethro Tull, made all of them be there at 8 a.m. and start rehearsing all day, like 12 hours a day, every day. And Tony's style didn't really fit what Jethro Tull was doing. He wasn't a fan of Ian. I don't know if they got along that well. And Tony left, came back to Sabbath, and was like, now hold on. Even though that I didn't get along with the boys, we need to start rehearsing like they did, because they were up all day and rehearsing all the time, and they weren't just messing around with girls and drugs and stuff. And so Tony brought some of that back to the band. And like, all right, we need to get our stuff together and start, getting real. One more thing about Tull is one of Bill Ward's, what's the word? The people that he looked up to, the drummers that he got his sound from, was
idols.
Yeah, one of his idols, his name was Clive Bunker, the original drummer for Jethro Tull, because Jethro Tull was around a few years before Sabbath. So, and it's very bluesy and swingy as Jethro Tull. So I thought that was interesting. So a little bit of Jethro Tull influence on Black Sabbath.
Jethro Tull, I guess I've never really listened to Jethro Tull, so I guess I'll count, my listening to Sabbath is kind of listening to Jethro Tull through Sabbath. I know you've listened to Jethro Tull a little bit more, but I haven't really dove into what Jethro Tull has to offer.
It's just blues. It's just blues rock, especially that early stuff, and that's just kind of what all the bands were doing, and it worked because you have Jethro Tull, the original album, Black Sabbath in the 70s, and then you have Led Zeppelin, who released, we don't even get started on them, And then Sabbath had that run of four. They're like, those first four albums they had just had the dark blues to it. And it was just, it was great.
It's phenomenal. You really can't say enough. So we've talked about the impact, but if we could, maybe go into it a little further, the impact, it just creates metal in general. We'll agree to that, and, I think it was released on a Friday the 13th, and that's just another evil day. And it's just like all the guitar's fingers get chopped off. It's released on Friday the 13th. There's all these dark religious symbols. It's all this just adding up to create just like, it's almost like, how do we not see this coming,
Yeah, and the cover art is a witch, standing in front of a spooky looking townhouse or a farmhouse, and that farmhouse is still there. And I am going.
You're going there
when I go to Europe. I am going there.
Do they know who this person was on the cover? Because I've heard different things about like it being some unknown person.
It was just some woman, I guess, who just kind of, they put her in this cloak and they straighten her hair, and I think it was like a couple months ago or a year ago, I saw something on Loudwire. I don't know if I trust it. They said, they found the witch on the cover of the original Black Sabbath album. But I love the art. I love the way Black Sabbath is painted, or not painted, but drawn, because their name doesn't, like every band's name has that look to them, but like this is the only album where their name looks like that on the cover.
Yeah.
And then I think it makes it look kind of cool too. It's like black, obviously. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
The art, definitely goes with the music,
right? The darkness kind of theme, like it's kind of like, who is this witch, we'll call it, this creepy person on the cover, who are they? It's eeriness that kind of just contributes. And in the vinyl, there's this little poem type deal that you kind of read it, and it flows, like the last line, the last couple lines, it's faintly at the distant tolling bell and the still falling rain. And then I think that just like flows perfectly into the opening of Black Sabbath. So it's almost like, I don't know where that.
Yeah, it is. And then like a little thunderstorm in the background. Yeah. And it's just like, ooh, it's spooky.
Yeah, it is kind of spooky. And I mean, nowadays, you can it's kind of, maybe a little corny to some people to hear this, but at the time, it's like, people took, talking about the devil and stuff, upside down crosses. That was like serious stuff. Like,
big deal.
yeah. But
yeah.
So
yeah, it overall.
Yeah.
What would you give it a rate? What rating would you give it out of 10?
Out of 10, I was going to ask you this, but I think I'm going to go.
This is hard.
It is hard.
10 is a perfect album. And
10 is a perfect album. And how many 10s are out there? I'm going to give it a 9.5. So,
wow.
Very close to perfect. But I think I just don't want to throw out too many perfects. What would you give it?
No, you can't. I think I'd have to agree with you. A 9.5, because it's just. I mean, the only imperfections would be that it was recorded in like one day for like 600 pounds,
right?
And they didn't even get a lot of time to record it, and they were kids. And Tony talked about how the producer of it didn't consult them of which takes of the songs to use, and there was better ones, and he was mad about that. So, it's just not professional, I would say, but it's they worked through that, and their talent showed so much that it almost didn't even matter.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. So, just to touch on another side of that, would you say this is their best album, or do you think there is a better album from Sabbath out there?
I think there is a better Black Sabbath album that portrays the band, the original band, better than this one. Yes, I will stand by that.
When I was first, it's been almost a year now since I first listened to all of the original Sabbath albums, the original 8. And, I think this might be my favorite album out of them all.
Okay.
But I think some other ones that I really enjoy, Paranoid, obviously, and I really enjoy Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath as well. But we'll have an episode on each of those because they are certainly deserving of that.
They are. It really shows their sound well, but man, it's between this one or Paranoid or Masters of Reality Volume 4. I don't even know. It'd be hard to choose.
Let's not even start talking about Born Again. I'm just kidding.
No. Hey, there's a couple good ones. You can't forget that I'm listening for Tony, and he can still make rips.
Right.
So.
We'll have to have an episode on albums that are criticized for being bad but are actually good, or actually have a few.
Yes.
That I could come up with a few. Maybe a certain Saint Anger from Metallica, for instance. But there'll be plenty of other time for that.
Ooh, I don't know if you want me on that podcast.
Oh, what? Why's that? Why's that?
Because the drummer made a couple choices, but there are some cool songs on that album.
I agree. I agree with you. And maybe we'll have a whole podcast where we discuss Lars, and we'll get other drummers on here, and y'all can hash it out about what Lars is drumming. But there will be plenty of future episodes. You and I clearly both have high reviews for Black Sabbath's debut album, and
correct.
That's all there is to it. If you haven't heard this album, you should do yourself a favor. Go listen to it. It's 38 minutes long, so it's not even incredibly long. You'll thank us later, honestly. So want to thank John for coming on today. We're definitely going to have you on again for future episodes. There's we could make a list a mile long of topics we could talk about. So we're supposed to be on the original podcast, the first episode, but we couldn't get you. But we're glad we could get you in here today. So it was a pleasure having you.
Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. And everybody who's listening right now, thank you for listening. And we hope you can tune in next week, where I will be reviewing the latest Foo Fighters album, Medicine at Midnight. So be sure to tune in for that. And as always, guys, never stop rocking, and thanks for listening.